Raja Jackson pleads not guilty and why this is the wrong choice. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Square Circle Podcast with your host, Marie Shadows. And this is just an update on the Raja Jackson situation. So this is another Raja Jackson podcast episode. And I'm not sure if it's going to be as super divisive as the last one is when I was talking about the $50,000 bail that Raja Jackson paid for, or his dad paid for him. And I was just asking questions because I really do want this narrative of, if you are white and you have a lot of money, that you're the only one that could get away with anything that's related to social justice and the jail system and the prison system. But if you are Black and you are wealthy and you're able to have the money, nobody says the same thing. Everyone is so quiet. So if people around the world want this equality, you got to give the same energy for one thing to the other. And it got to the point where one commenter was just so racist and really so had a lot of hate in his heart, decided to leave some really nasty comments that I had deleted. But the main thing that stuck with me was that I should be paying attention to my culture. So what I did was that I made a Discord Notes volume 8, which is on patreon.com/Marie Shadows, that you guys can go there, listen to it, and even read the write-up. But it's called My Culture is American, and it was stemmed from that. I do think that because this involves professional wrestling, because Raja Jackson damn near almost ended a professional wrestler's career, whether you knew him or not, is just not cool. That shouldn't happen in the community. And I should be able to speak on it, and I should be able to speak on the issues that sometimes the Black community also needs to address. Someone like me really shouldn't address it as much, or people outside of the community shouldn't address it as much. There should be people within the community that want to uphold their Black communities to a higher standard, to be like, hey, we can't keep having these same issues if we're never going to talk about these issues, and to be a better community all around. And I think that all communities should be having these conversations. And I know that there's different types of people that just think differently. So sometimes you may never even get people on the same page, but it doesn't hurt to have these conversations, and it doesn't hurt to sort of try to change someone's mind and have them see things in a different way, so they could be like, yeah, it's time to stop living like really crazy people. Well, let's get back to the Raja Jackson situation, because as you know, in the last episode, I did mention that Raja Jackson was arrested. They did have a warrant out for his arrest, and they did arrest him. But then, his dad was like, no, I got $50K, bam, he walks free, and he's not sitting in that jail. There was one commenter on the YouTube channel, aka Frank, that decided to tell me that I did not know what I was talking about when I said that, he got a get out of jail free card. Basically, if you are not sitting within that jail cell to await the next step in the process on how they do stuff and stuff like that, if you're not sitting in that jail cell, then you are free. You are walking around. You paid for your freedom for a couple more hours, for a couple more days, until they finally, I guess, got him, because the article that I'm going to be reading from, which is CBS Sports, doesn't say if they went back to be like, hey, you are going to get arrested now again, and we're going to take you to jail. It doesn't say if he did. It opens up with, Raja Jackson, son of former UFC light heavyweight champion Quinton Rampage Jackson, pleaded not guilty to battery charges, but faces up to 7 years in prison if convicted. Jackson, 25, pleaded not guilty in court on Thursday, so this past Thursday, according to MMA Fighting, after being charged with felony battery and misdemeanor battery. The two charges include sentencing enhancement for allegedly causing great bodily injury, which could add 3 extra years to a prison sentence, totaling 7. So again, there was no they went back to his house to go get him. Obviously, they probably did. And then he decided to plead not guilty, which I say that is the wrong decision because you streamed everything. If he didn't stream everything and then it started with the he said, she said game and we're getting fan footage of this and not fan footage of that, if it was very muddied and you had to really do a big puzzle to put everything together, then yeah, you can say that you're not guilty because then there is a doubt that, you're actually not guilty. But everything was streamed from the time that he was in the parking lot with the guys laughing it up. And then you had the promoter there. You had the wrestlers there. You had people having a good time. You had the interaction. You had everything that led up to Psycho Stu damn near almost dying because Rampage Jackson decided to go overboard with what he was supposed to do, even though everybody, in my opinion, everybody is still to blame. So to plead not guilty, you're basically trying to get away with it, even though the evidence is there and the evidence is clear as day. However, because this is in California and this is in, LA, California, Cali is just crazy over there. The government is just crazy. And I'm guessing the law enforcement and the jail system is crazy. And I honestly just hope that they do it right. I really do. I hope that they do it right because it's going to look very bad if there is no justice for this, because it should have not escalated this far. And the chat is also to blame. His chat is also to blame. Everybody is to blame for this, to make sure that Raja got to that very hyper stage of just wanting to do something heinous and harmful to a wrestler that apologized profusely to Rampage Jackson once he realized that he wasn't a worker. But then again, like I explained in the other episodes, that sometimes when you're in the business and you're in indie wrestling promotions, you sometimes get a revolving door of new wrestlers that you never met before, that you never interacted before. So whoever is hanging out in the parking lot, you probably consider them to be part of the show. You probably consider them to maybe be a stagehand or maybe actually be a wrestler that got booked for the first time for that promotion. So it's really not unheard of or unseen that a wrestler would be like, oh, you're a worker, so let me do this angle, let's set something up, and you sell what I'm gonna do to you. So things happen. That's what I'm trying to say, that things happen. I do think that stuff should have went down differently, but it is what it is. So basically, the reason why I say that Rampage Jackson picked the wrong thing to say, he's probably going to get the maximum sentence because lawyers would definitely make it so that this happens that way. And depending on the jury that they have for this to get it there, if it's going to go to a jury, because in the article it says Jackson is due back in court on November 24th for a preliminary hearing setting in his case. So they're really going to go through everything, see what's going to happen, and then try to decide what kind of level this is. I know this probably the way they have their level system is different from New York City, but if they do have a tiny bit of a jury, you still have to be wary about how they're going to vote for this. But I say that it is the wrong choice to plead not guilty, because then lawyers could definitely try to get him the complete 7 with nothing else, with no type of rehabilitation and stuff like that. I had advocated in the other podcast episodes that he should go to jail for maybe a year and then get rehabilitation. And then somebody got upset. They were like, do you not know how prison works? Because I said 1 year in jail. At the time, nobody else was giving a solution to this. So I was just speaking off the top of my head. But yeah, I do think that a lawyer would try to get all 7 years for Raja Jackson on this. Then again, if you're listening to this, I am not a lawyer at all. Now, if Raja Jackson decided to plead guilty, this is where the courts can definitely be like, okay, he's finally taking accountability. He understands what he did is 100% wrong. And he's going to try to get better, maybe get better, because it is a mental issue that Raja Jackson has. If you are going to be online 24/7 streaming, that is not healthy. That is not. And then people in his chat will be saying the most ridiculous things, and that gets under his skin. And then I was also mentioning before how online streaming, and even just regular streaming too, if you're in like the GTA streaming communities or any of the big fandom communities, there are chat hoppers. Chat hoppers are basically people that like to stir up drama, and they are the cause for most of the outbursts that you see most of the time. However, that's like, give or take, depending on like who you're watching and stuff. But one chat hopper can be in Rampage's live stream and hear him say something, and then jump over to like Raja Jackson's live stream if they're both streaming at the same time. And that chat hopper can start some drama and start lying and taking things out of context and write it in chat. And then it might get Raja upset. And then he's going to act out, and then he's going to do something, because essentially, if you are streaming live every single day, you have to do something to keep the fans entertained. So if you could get under their skin and they start acting a fool, then yeah, the chat hopper did his job. And there's some entertainment. People can clip that. There could be headlines that could be ran with it, whatever the case may be. This is why I still think that this whole court situation, when they decide to look at everything, that they have to take all this stuff into consideration. And this is why I think this one is way more muddier than maybe just if this wasn't streamed and it was just a regular attack and you get the fan footage and stuff. That might be like clearer, black and white. It's a straight cut. But because we are dealing with wrestling, and because we're dealing with IRL streaming, and because we're dealing with hostile chats and chat hoppers and all that kind of stuff, I think this makes it a little bit more muddy. But with all of that being said, if Raja Jackson had pleaded guilty, they would have found a way to make the justice system work, where he may not even get the full 7 years, and he might end up getting, maybe half of that. And then on good behavior, they'll put him in therapy, which he needs therapy. He really does. Rampage Jackson also needs therapy too. But, they will be a little more lenient on his sentence because he realizes the amount of pain he caused one man. And luckily, Psycho Stu is still doing okay. And yeah, so basically that is the update. The update is that Raja Jackson pleads not guilty to the heinous crime that he did to Psycho Stu. And because this is in California, like I said, we have to be wary because the California government is batshit crazy. And they have not been making any good decisions. They have been definitely going against the Trump administration for no reason. They don't want to take care of their own. They want to take care of everybody else except for their own California people. And nobody in California, well, maybe they are. They're not really standing up to the government there. And we just know that the blue states tend to release people who have really bad track records of just being horrible human beings to others. They release criminals back onto the streets. So I am not hopeful about what kind of justice we're going to be getting when this goes through. And if there's any more updates, I'll let you guys know. And I'm not really hopeful because it's in California. But I do think that we'll get justice one way or another. So again, Raja Jackson pleads not guilty to battery charges, but faces up to 7 years in prison if convicted. So he has been charged with felony battery and misdemeanor battery. I will say this, though, that right is right and wrong is wrong. So now I want to hear from you guys. What do you think? Do you think that Raja Jackson is going to get the total of 7 years? Do you think that Raja should have pleaded guilty because everything is on live stream and they're probably going to bring up chats and stuff like that? Like, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Please keep it civilized. And if you can, please do not put any type of emotion down there too, because man, when you guys get emotional, you guys don't listen for nothing. Just don't get emotional. We're here to have a conversation about this, that Raja Jackson pleaded guilty. I think that was the wrong call for him to do because he is guilty. It is on live stream. It is on camera. It is documented. We see exactly what happened. And myself and other content creators have been talking about it from the initial all the way to here, the updates. And just to remind everybody, Raja Jackson is due back in court on November 24th, 2025 for a preliminary hearing setting in his case. So if anything comes up, I will be giving an update on it and giving some more comments and conversations about it. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below, whether that is on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast, somewhere on Spotify, on rumble.com/Marie Shadows, on Substack, and also on patreon.com/Marie Shadows. Take your pick. Let me know what you guys think. And that is everything. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to a brand new episode of the Square Circle Podcast, talking about Raja Jackson's situation and his choice about what he pleads for with your host, Marie Shadows. I was trying a new outro. I don't think that worked. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to your comments, and I'll see you guys on the next one.